Good morning and welcome to SSUC, Southminster Steinhauer United Church, where we are spiritual seekers, united in community, online together with one another. This is a time we take with each other, a time to reflect on our lives and how we are living in this time, in this day, in this breath, in this moment. And although we can't share a place, we can still share space and time together. Whoever we are, wherever we are, whatever we're hoping for, whatever we're coping with, whatever we're celebrating, whatever we're carrying, whatever we fear, whatever we dare to dream, we are here together in this time and in this space with each other to ground ourselves in wisdom, to deepen our compassion, to strengthen our capacity to live in ways that are more faithful to truth and humility, respect, integrity, dignity, and acceptance. With me here in the room today, in the booth helping us with our technology, we have Joseph and Brett. We're very grateful for their help and their presence with us. And in music today, we have Deb on the piano, Anne on the sax, Dawn on the violin, and Pam helping us with vocals, along with my teammate, Chris. I'm Nancy, and we're delighted to be with you here this morning, and delighted that you've taken time in your life to join us and be with us. We take a moment now to think about where we are, the storied land on which we have built our lives, in the place we call home, whether we are indigenous, refugee, or immigrant. We come with deep respect for this land, for its first peoples, for the cultures and traditions, for the gift of relationship, and for our will to commit to reconciling ways with one another. And so we pause where we are here in Edmonton or Saskatoon on Treaty 6 land, and we invite you to take a moment to think about and honor the first peoples of your land, where you find yourself this day, where you place your life. If you have a candle, I invite you to take it now and to join me as we light our candles with one another. A new day has come, bringing its light to the shadows of grudges and grievances, to the shades of shaming and blaming, bringing its potential for forgiveness and freedom and restoration and reconciliation, bringing its possibilities and its potential as it carries light that is billions of years old. We light our candles with each other. New light, new day, another breath, an opportunity for starting over, a chance to open to light and warmth, an opportunity to strengthen our intention to live more nearly as we pray. And so, in the light of this candle, we sing now with one another those intentions we have lit with our light.
As trees reach up to the sunlight, as leaves unfold to sing. This is a glimpse of the journey. This is the hope of our soul, to live more closely as we breathe, connected in one life long.
Hello. A reading this morning, this one a poem entitled The Inner History of a Day by John O'Donohue. No one knew the name of this day, born quietly from deepest night. It hid its face in light, demanded nothing for itself, opened out to offer each of us a field of brightness that traveled ahead, providing in time ground to hold our footsteps, and the light of thought to show the way. The mind of the day draws no attention. It dwells within the silence with elegance, to create a space for all our words, drawing us to listen inward and outward. We seldom notice how each day is a holy place, where the Eucharist of the ordinary happens, transforming our broken fragments into an eternal continuity that keeps us. Somewhere in us, a dignity presides that is more gracious than the smallness that fuels us with fear and force. A dignity that trusts the form that a day takes. So at the end of this day, we give thanks for being betrothed to the unknown and for the secret work through which the mind of the day and wisdom of the soul become one. In the words of this poet, may we find wisdom for our living.
If quiet
I want to share with you the words of Ron Atkinson. Ron was a United Church minister who served the Cape Mudge United Church on First Nations land in Quadra Island for a number of years, and area on Vancouver Island. Among his writings, for much of his later life, in fog, and this is an excerpt from his piece. The fog comes close to whisper in our ears. The fog has much to teach us of emptiness and unlearning. The cloud of unknowing has come down to earth for us. One day, we become content with the sequestered, the veiled, letting the equivocal be our delight. We come to honor only the elusive, the timid, the hushed. What is here and yet not here? Baptized into fog, we die to designations, definitions, that we may dive deeper where the hidden dwells. The presence we sense swirls and breathes in a wet, unnameable waiting, wrapped in nothing but awe. The faith of the fogged in frees us and lets us be centered, entered, and rounded for the uttermost and final weather. In these wise words of one who was ahead of his time, may we find wisdom for our living. We want to invite this time when each of us can think about the
Hello there. I don't know if you can see me very well. It's dark outside. And I wanted to come outside in the dark to talk to you about light and dark and shadows. The other day, my kids and I watched a scary movie. Afterward, it felt like it was hard to go to sleep because I was thinking about the things that happened in that movie. And I didn't like being in my dark bedroom. So maybe you've had some times like that when you were scared in the dark. Maybe you had trouble sleeping. Today, I'm outside and the sun is just about to come up. And it's reminding me that even when it's dark and the shadows are scary, there is always a little bit of light. If there wasn't any light at all, there could be no shadows. Shadows need light and dark. I wonder if it's helpful to always look for the little bits of light. It helped me when I was scared to focus on the light. Right now, I can look up to the sky and see that it's not totally dark out. It looks dark in the trees. But if I look up to the sky, I can see that it's actually pretty light out. It's light enough for me to see, to walk. And even if I'm a little bit scared, I can look up at the sky and know to always look for the light.
We hear from an epic story in the book of Exodus. In the epic tale of a hero named Moses, after he has navigated the wilderness with a disgruntled people, and they find themselves lost and without direction and grumbling about which way to go and wasn't it better back in Egypt where they were, comes this story that's been passed down to us in our tradition. In response to what Moses believed to be the call of his God, he went up to the mountain to wait for the tablets of stone with the law and the commandments. Moses set out for the mountain with his assistant, Joshua. They made their way to the sacred mountain, and when they reached the lower levels, he said to the elders, "Wait below until we come to you again. Aaron and Hur are here with you. Whoever has a dispute may go to them in my absence." Then Moses went up the mountain, and a cloud covered the mountain. A divine presence settled on Mount Sinai, and the cloud shrouded it for 6 days. And on the 7th day, Moses entered the cloud and remained there for 40 days and 40 nights. In this legendary tale, passed down through so many generations, may we too find wisdom for our living. I invite us to sing with one another a song that is new to some of us and well known to others of us, words and music of Carolyn McDade that have been wonderfully set to images by Rosemary Cunningham. We sing together with one another. We shall release a new justice.
Rivers of
I think trees must have a more hospitable relationship with fog than I do. I think I first met fog in the summers of my childhood along the Bay of Fundy. It could be a warm, sunny day just up the river in Hillsborough, where my grandparents lived. And then just down the road, and I do mean literally just minutes down the road, a short drive from their home, we'd be engulfed by cold, dense fog that had rolled in over the bay and had taken everything with it. The cliffs across the bay in Nova Scotia, the white caps on the water, and even the beach under our feet. I was reminded of those childhood days a few years ago when Don and I were in Ireland and drove the Dingle Peninsula. Partway through the day, the sun burned through the fog to reveal this most amazing seascape that told us that we'd only been meters from the sea most of the day, but who would have known? Because the land and the sea were entirely lost to the fog. We'd been unable to see more than a car's length in front of us the entire day. The landscape was swallowed in fog. But in the redwoods, the fog rolls in from the coast, and the foliage, which is mostly at the tops of the trees, drinks in moisture and appears to receive it with all the grace of a dog that has been running in the sun all day, receives its water bowl with joy and gratitude. It feels like the trees are waiting each morning to greet that wet blanket. They're not only reaching up for the sun, they're stretching into the fog. There's that story I read a moment ago, a story our tradition tells us of Moses making his way up to the mountain in search of discernment, direction, figuring out how to get his bearings, leading a grumbling community that had found their way out of oppression, but had lost their way to freedom. The story has Moses climb Mount Sinai in search of clarity. And what he gets is fog. As the story goes, he stays in that cloud, in that shroud, in that fog for 40 days and 40 nights. In other words, for what felt like a hell of a long time, what felt infinite, indefinite. And he emerges with a new ethical awareness. The cloud didn't take on a Siri or Alexa voice. It didn't give him GPS guidance across the wilderness. It didn't carve a map in stone. It didn't offer him 7 easy steps to leading an unhappy people. But there was something about the intimacy of that cloud, something about that mysterious sense of presence, that the story has him call it divine. And as the legend goes, he comes down from the cloud with a set of principles or values that would help him as he and his people navigated the unknown terrain before them. Our tradition has come to call those the 10 Commandments, but really, they are a set of ethical and moral guidelines for respecting and preserving life in the best of times, and maybe more importantly, in the worst of times. The foggy ascent to the summit at Sinai was not about an all-knowing, all-powerful sky god writing rules in stone and giving them to Moses, but rather those principles, those values that emerged are a community's consensus about how to honor the beauty and sacredness of life and how to keep human life human. Those so-called Ten Commandments are more like a charter or a constitution, an aspirational way of setting out what will preserve goodness and what can protect us from the worst in ourselves. For me, these 10 commandments are more like 10 ways to spell respect. Some of the ingredients to inject unity into community. Number 1, respect that you didn't make yourself. Respect your interdependence. Recognize we're all kin, we're all my relations. 2, respect that we are subjects in relationship with subjects. And a reverence for life means that what is sacred can never be reduced to object. Number 3, respect what is holy. It will keep us whole. 4, respect our need for rest. Nothing in creation can sustain production forever. 5, respect the wisdom of the long story of the universe in which we human ones are just Johnny-come-lately. Respect our history, our ancestry, our universe story. 6, respect all forms of life and the sacredness of life and death, the web of being. 7, respect the faithfulness which sustains relationship. 8, respect and discern what does not belong to you or to me or to any of us. Number 9, respect truth. Number 10, respect what has been entrusted to another. These are 10 ways of reaching for light as we trust the dark. Ways of taking up residence in the cloud of unknowing. That place which we have always lived, but more recently come to recognize as our fixed address in these COVID days. As John O'Donohue put it, we are betrothed to the unknown. We are married to uncertainty. That is the fact of life. It's the truth of life when we strip away all our illusions of control. What we have in the cloud is an ethical compass, not a map of the terrain. It's not a way of knowing where we're going, it's only a way of knowing how we are going. These times of raw consciousness of our racial and socioeconomic inequality that has accrued to our benefit. These times of living with a deadly and non-discriminating virus, these times draw us up into the cloud, into the fog, where we must discern what an ethical life means for each one of us. How do we yield space to one another? How do we extend care to one another? How do we take reasonable risks? How do we respect the risks others take? How do we live with respect for our limits of knowing and the depth of humanness that's required for us to survive and thrive? Baptized into fog, we die to designations, definitions, that we may dive deeper to where the hidden dwells. In those words of Ron Atkinson, we find an invitation to learn the wisdom of the trees, to befriend the fog that feeds us, that takes away our illusions, that erases the defining lines of our lives and beckons us into an intimacy with the cloud of unknowing, of letting go of what we thought we knew or could know, and trusting the fog to teach us what we can only discover when everything fixed disappears. We have within us, within the best of our humanness, the instinct to reach for light, to seek what is good and true and worthy of effort and energy. We have the capacity to draw in the moisture and light and to turn it into the fruit of compassion and kindness and a new justice. But it might mean that we have to have a little faith in fog, a little more trust in darkness, a little more strain in our stretch for the light that is always there.
Hello again. We asked you to share some of your experiences of darkness, of uncertainty, and a few of you have shared some stories with us, and I'd like to share them with you now. Maureen texted in and remembers a time of uncertainty and darkness in 2014 when her newborn grandson was clinging to life during several episodes over the course of several months. Definite uncertainty and darkness from Maureen. Sherry Ann shares a story. I learned so much from a night-filled hike with a dear friend after realizing a bear had discovered our tent and that it was safer to pack up and return to the car, a 3-hour hike. We were scared, but she led the way and I followed up. She held a tiny flashlight. We sang every song we knew out loud to let that bear know we were humans and that we were leaving the space with peace. We couldn't see our way. We stubbed our toes, we tripped, and carried on. And we deepened our friendship with each other and with that place, the path, the mountain, and the bear. Thank you, Sherry Ann, for that. And Michael shares a story. I have learned to sit and not fight the darkness, to let it be and experience it. It is a human experience, and it will pass if I let it. How can I not experience all there is? Thank you, Michael, for sharing that. You might have an experience, a thought, a story that you would like to share, and it's not too late. You can continue to send those in today through the week, and we'll share those with all of you as we receive them. Thank you for contributing to today, all of you.
I want to just take a moment to invite us to continue to support our community by our donations that you can make either online or that you can make by purchasing grocery cards if you just text or call or email the office, and they'll be available for pickup on Thursdays, or they can be delivered to you if that would be helpful. You can mail a check to our address here at the church. You can drop off a check or cash on Thursdays between 10 and 1. And we express our gratitude to those of you who support us regularly and monthly by your pre-authorized remittances. This helps us in so many ways to navigate this time in which we have the loss of income from the lack of ability to put our building out there for space use for the most part, and also for many of the fundraisers that we typically do over the course of a year. You can also support Palestinian farmers through your purchase of olive oil, which is also available by...
We also want to share with you the opportunity to participate in Expressing Wonder this fall. We will carry on with the Expressing Wonder Conference, which was to happen in Saskatoon in October, but it has moved online, so our chances to participate are still with us. And you can visit the website that you see on your screen at the bottom to register, to find more details, and to learn more about the exciting speakers that we will still be able to hear from and experience in this wonderful conference in October, thanks to the wonderful planning and people of SSUC Saskatoon.
Opens to the
with the energy of our songs and prayers, words of wisdom and the call of our highest humanness. We move from this time together to pass the living flame, to pass it in a new form, this day as a people betrothed to the unknown. Stay safe, be well. We'll see you soon.